We are in a
Yes.
renaissance of animation.
Yes, we are. We're in a great period for animated shows.
In my life, bearing in mind we grew up with Saturday morning cartoons like Spider-Man and
Mhm.
X-Men and all of that amazing stuff, we are right now living in some of the best animation the world's ever seen. With the Spider-Verse movies, X-Men 97, Invincible, all of this just pure phenomenal
Mhm.
animation.
Yep.
X-Men 97 is the best of the bunch for me right now. I say that as someone who adores Spider Verse and adores the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The thought process going into every single aspect of this X Men 97 revival is insanity.
It's I'm up there with you. It's hit X-Men 97's really done an amazing job of hitting that visual style and vibe of the original show. Like it feels like this could have come out straight like back when the show originally was coming out. Like it doesn't feel any different, but it feels polished. Like we can now see that like it's polished. It's sort of that thing of back then, this is how we remember it looking like, even though it probably didn't. And
Yeah.
it's like they've hit that. And like you say, it's definitely one of the best animated shows at the moment. Spider Verse is like it's tough for me because obviously as a creative person, Spider Verse hits so many points, like with the just the style and everything they do there.
I do get that. My counterpoint to that, and why for me it slaps Spider Verse, other than just recency bias, which I know I'm a huge victim of, is no other live action or animated project uses character interaction the same way X Men 97 does, especially in combat. In every single episode, we have seen characters using their abilities in unique
Mm,
ways and also using their abilities in tandem, which is like the X Men's, like an additional X Men character is the Danger Room, where they
yeah.
practice and they train. So it makes sense that the X Men, when they're fighting as a team, are buttery smooth, which they are. They don't
Mm,
get in each other's way. They're not tripping over each other. Instead, you've got Bishop going, Cyclops hit me, to store up all this
yes.
energy to just obliterate stuff like it's second nature. It's all so clean. They do just, the animators and the writers have been sitting there doing bumps of cocaine, going, "What is the coolest thing you wanted to see the X Men do that they've not done?" And then they make it happen.
I think yeah, it's this two sides. Like obviously the fights and everything in Spider Verse are also amazing. I think it's kind of each have their own fun thing they can play with. Like Spider Verse has like the different worlds which we got to see visually. Like they had fun with that. I feel like X Men because there's so many different characters and different sets of powers. Like you say, the fight scenes feel more varied because there's a lot more variety they can play with, and like you say, come up with fun combos that are unique and feel refreshing for these
Yeah.
characters. Um, yeah, the
And
fights
bearing in
this episode
mind,
were so good.
we know for a fact that some of it is animated 2D like the original was,
Hmm.
and some of it is animated in 3D. At no point does it ever feel like it's cutting between the two. It feels so smooth when they transition between them. It's crazy.
Yeah, they've done a good job of hiding the 3D, um, which is always like this is kind of parallel. It happens a lot of in anime that some anime shows hide the 3D really well and use it in clever ways. Others, it's like suddenly you'll be watching, oh, there's a 3D scene, and it like
Yeah.
suddenly jolts out at you. But no, X Men's doing a great job in that sense, like you say.
Maybe like anime fans are sitting here going, "Yeah, the fights are good, but they are just like anime level fights." Cool, but these are characters that I grew up being
Yeah.
enamored with. That I'm getting to see in that style. I've always thought anime does phenomenal fight scenes, but I don't have the time to watch a
Mm.
thousand episodes of One Piece.
No, that I would say there's definitely the fights in this were great. Anime fights are just a different level, but I agree with what you're saying. Like for people like in the watch anime or watch other shows that have these incredible animated fight scenes, this might not be new to them. But you've got to think for Marvel fans, this is like a new level that I don't think they've got to enjoy with their characters. It's kind of pushed the bar up into this space of like now we're talking about anime. It's like bringing it higher to the where it should be and where I think more of this superhero content should push to be. Like
Mm,
there's levels like I feel like X-Men's setting a new bar for kind of what is now going to be expected from kind of
yeah.
animated stuff. Animated stuff.
And here's the other thing that we absolutely need to remember: this show is following the comics in a
Yes.
much more faithful adaptation than we
Mm,
actually have ever really seen in media. Yeah, they do it a bit quicker than the comics do it because
mm.
they don't want loads of extra filler and stuff. But
Yep.
like, I went back and I didn't finish watching X Men the original animated series before 97 came around. I ran out of time,
Mm,
but they have the Dark Phoenix saga in there and how that happens, and it
yep.
all lines up with how it actually worked, down to like the visual style they take from the characters. So, if you read these comics in the 90s or whenever they were written, the comics that this show is based off, probably the 80s,
Mm.
um, as a child and you're watching this now, you're probably like, oh my God, this is how I visualized it.
Well, yeah, they're probably like, oh my god, I know what's going to happen. And it's
Yeah,
well, it's like we talked about it last week. Obviously, it ended with Jean Grey coming in. It's like, okay, so you're like, well, there was a story where one's that Cable is the son of a clone of Jean Grey, so looks like it might be leading towards this. And then it's like this episode's like, yeah, that is exactly what happened. And it's just like, okay, cool. Now we get to visually see it in animation.
exactly
Um,
that.
I will say, clone Jean Grey or Goblin Queen? Goblin Mummy?
I, yeah. So here's the thing. I think, despite the fact that superhero media is generally quite sexualized, I think that's not
Yeah.
a crazy thing to suggest. I think we've always done a good job of not really like commenting on that because it's not often necessary.
No.
When it comes to the X-Men, it is necessary, and I don't just mean this for the women characters. The first person I mentioned it about was Gambit in his slutty crop
Yeah.
top.
Yeah. This is
They are
true.
all like, the X-Men are inherently alternative, and they might not feel alternative anymore, but they were when it happened.
Yeah.
You've got your little hairy Wolverine and Beast, and then you've got Angel and Iceman. Everyone's represented, and as a result, all sexuality is represented.
Mhm.
They are all like, I saw I think I sent it to you, the TikTok talking about Gambit.
Yes, and how he is
It's
just
like,
like, why are people
Gambit is
shocked?
clearly a bisexual man. They've partnered him with the attractive woman that he can't touch. It's a metaphor for a bisexual man. And like, it's all there. Yes, that's fine. If you want to sit there on your right wing agenda and go, no, they just fight robots and they have superpowers, there's no hidden meaning, that's fine. You can delude yourself. People with media literacy, however, can look at these and, okay, let's be clear. The most straight looking person in the entire house, Cyclops, has literally had sex with Wolverine.
Yeah,
Canonically.
there you go.
Let's just.
I I think a lot of like that thing with like Gambit, all those people that are getting annoyed and be like, "Oh my god, Gambit should have crop top. Like this isn't right." I feel like they only ever saw the original X-Men films and are basing any representation of the characters off that. But then it's like you like you said, you go to the comics and Gambit is bisexual coded. It's in his colors of his like suit. He's pink and black and blue all over, and it's
Do
like
you know what I mean?
people
Like,
people take what
it's crazy.
they take like one visual version and not actually the source material. And they're like, oh, well, he's not like that in this. And this is what I watched. And this is all I know of the X Men. So your comics are
Also,
wrong.
also in the 90s,
Mm,
men wearing crop tops was fashion.
yeah.
So like, it also lines up there.
It's
The
just,
moral of the story is just get over yourself.
yeah.
And canonically, Magneto is the only person who can have sex with Rogue, which I found out after last week's episode, which is hilarious. Apparently, he can use his magnetism powers to essentially put himself in like a little body condom or something that like keeps him safe from her touch.
Interesting.
Yeah, fucking
Why do I feel
crazy. I
like
want
they're going to lead up to that?
because he gets her pregnant in the comics.
in before that happens in this show.
I like. It's so that all the characters are designed in a very aesthetically pleasing way.
Yeah,
And
and it's
I just think it is almost one of them ones where it's like, if you don't want to admit that, you actually might have larger internalized issues
the thing as well
when
is
you
like
don't want to admit it.
we mentioned it last week, but it's like the meme of the X-Men show has always been Guy saw Rogue, and it's that one moment where she's like led on her side,
Yeah.
and it's almost like, and then everyone saw the trailer for this and was like, oh my god, they've ruined Rogue, and it's almost like now the show's coming out there, and I was like, no, look, we're doing it to everyone.
They're all attractive. Who's your favorite? Is the real question.
It's like, oh, you thought we used to be bad. Now look what we're animating.
Put it this way. I'm putting this as a call out to every attractive person in the world. Halloween this year, X-Men 97 costumes only.
I'd love to see like a rise in
all
X-Men costumes.
All of the attractive people owe it to the rest of the world, men and women, and everyone in between. If you're attractive, you owe it to the world to dress as an X-Men for Halloween this year.
I feel like I recall you saying you wanted to play Gambit.
I would.
Episode
I
in a
would
crop top for Halloween.
I would get jacked, and I would do the Austin Butler working with a vocal coach to the point where I can't unlearn my voice to play Gambit. If they want me to do it, I'll do it. I don't give a fuck. I will become Gambit.
I feel like we should also talk about in this episode. We are definitely getting a future episode where Cable appears. I feel.
So Cable was in the original show.
Right, yeah. So you obviously
pretty early in the original show.
Okay, so maybe we get him again then.
So yeah, the real question is going to be: does he come back for whatever reason, and they start to piece it together? I don't know how long it took them to piece it together in the comics.
Okay.
I will. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting. The other thing is, of course, and like I don't necessarily want to get into this conversation, but it's worth mentioning. The show's been incredibly successful off rip.
Yes,
does this put Marvel under pressure to consider rebooting other animated shows from the same era? Or do they just go, no, this is lightning in a bottle, let's not overcommit?
I think they'll wait to see how viewership holds, because we are 3 episodes in. So
yeah, I think that would be the rational response. Does the episodes hold for an extended period? Yes, okay, continue. One last point to make on the show before we move on to our next point, our next topic. Bob Iger's a fucking moron. My man sat there not even a month ago, and when we need to move away from pushing like agendas and just go back to telling stories, let's leave all the political stuff out of it. They said, let's stop taking risks and just land on the bankers, blah blah blah, go woke, go broke bullshit. X-Men has taken over the fucking internet. Everyone is loving it, and it is literally the most woke thing I've seen on TV this decade. So
the annoying thing is, he's just going to see the success and be like, okay, so X-Men is a play it safe thing. Now I just want X-Men films. Scrap the rest of the MCU. We're just going X-Men.
I'm okay with that.
I know, but you know what I mean. Like he'll just move to this is now the safe thing, and everything else is pointless. And it's like that's not the point here.